annual feng shui we use predominantly for kind of health, wealth, and happiness, basically. So this is what I'm going to tell you about today. So you will learn why annual feng shui, why annual flying star, and how to apply it. So I like to do really practical talks. So you'll be able to walk away from this and be able to apply what I'm showing you today, and you'll be able to put it in your own home or in your own office or business place. I'll show you the best sectors to put yourself in, and also the sectors to avoid this year. And I always add this on, which is we always focus on the positive. So I always focus on the positive, which is not to worry that you might have not such great feng shui once you've seen some of this, but to put yourself in the best place you can so you can get the maximum from the feng shui of the year. And I also want to give you a little bit of context. So this is a real kind of race through classical feng shui. So it's really important, I think, to find out where we focus and where annual flying star is going to fit in the whole pantheon of classical feng shui. So basically, 60% of your feng shui comes from outside, so that's external feng shui. So that is the mountains or the hills around you, or even the slope in the road, and water, lakes or rivers or streams that are around your property. So we always look there first to look at the quality of the qi that we're bringing into the property, and that will determine the type of experience you will have living or working there. And also we look a lot at whether you're able to receive the qi from outside and bring it into your property and hold it. And then once we've got the qi to come into your property, we look at how it moves around inside, so then we call that qi flow. And then we have loads of calculations and formulas that we use in classical feng shui because we love formulas. So things like 8 mansions, which you might be familiar with, Rincon d'Agua, natal flying stars, and then we get to annual flying star. So the important thing to remember with all of this is annual flying star is a very, very, very small part of classical feng shui, but it's a really effective and powerful part of feng shui, which is why I tend to use it with my clients a lot. Because at the end of the day, it's like quick fix feng shui. So if you have a problem, or things are not moving, or you've got something that's kind of not going in the right direction for you, if you look at your annual flying star, you'll be able to do something to affect some change. So that's why I think annual flying star is really profoundly effective, because you can actually get real tangible results quite quickly. And it is, in the whole feng shui offering, annual flying star really is the cherry on the cake. So the rest of what I've told you about is the cake, and the rest of it is the cherry on the cake. So that's why we use it. So don't get kind of distracted and think this is everything, because it's not. But it is. It's a tactical tool. So what is annual flying star? So flying star are the energies or the auspices that fly around inside a property, and you have your constitutional flying star, which never changes, and then every year we have the stars fly around your property, which means they move around in certain predicted directions. So every year we can predict what's going to occur in your house next year. So right now, working with my clients, getting them set up for this year, I've already got half an eye on next year and what's coming up for them and what's going to be happening in their property. So as they move around inside the property, and it's important to remember that this is an internal technique, it doesn't affect what's going on in your garden, but it's the energy inside the property that will directly affect the people who are using that space. Okay, and whether this is your home or whether this is your workplace, the same applies. So why do we use it? Because it's fast, like I say. It's goal-oriented, because we use it to get a specific thing that we're looking for. It's a quick fix, and also to avoid negative qi. So, there are areas that are not necessarily so supportive in the year, so if we are aware of our own annual flying star, we can kind of mitigate and move out of that area so we're not affected by it. So when I work with my clients to use annual feng shui, I always say to them, similar to what Vanda was kind of working with just before I came on. So what do you want? What kind of short-term goal do you want to achieve this year? Because you need to kind of be specific and know what you want. Otherwise, it's a kind of scattergun effect. So if there's something that you really, really want to achieve in the year, you focus on that, and then you do this that I'm going to show you. So the types of things that we use annual flying star for are, and these are the things that my clients have asked for. They want to get promotion, pay off debt, find a new partner, starting a business. We use it a lot for kind of academic students to give them the best kind of results in their study, and also to boost your reputation. So these are all the kinds of things that you can use Annual Flying Star for. And just to mention that, you might be sitting there going, well, we're already in May, so why are we talking about 2018 now? But our year doesn't really start until the 4th of February. So this runs, everything I'm going to tell you now, runs until February 4th, roughly, in 2019. So there's still lots and lots of time for you to implement this and get the benefit from it. Okay, so this is a kind of practical class, really. So what you need to do in order to work with your Annual Flying Star is you need your floor plan to begin with. Okay, so this is just an example I've given you here. So get your floor plan. So it can be architect's plans, which are always really great, estate agent's plans, or even you can hand draw your plans, and they don't have to be, kind of desperately precise, because we're working with a kind of broad flow of energy. And then once you have your floor plan, you square it up. So you want 9 equal size boxes on your floor plan. And then you take a compass, which doesn't have to be a Chinese compass, it can be your iPhone, any kind of compass, and you find that this is how I do it, this is my methodology. You stand at the front of your property in the middle, and then you take a reading outwards. So you stand like this and read outwards. So say this is your front. This is the front of your property. You stand here and take a reading outwards, and you note that number down, the degree reading, and then fill in. If you know that, for example, is 160 degrees south, you can fill in all the other boxes. And so if this is south, this will be north, and etc. So you just go around and fill it all in. If you work with me, when I work with my clients, I work like this. So I work with a radial grid, and I work with 24 mountains, and I work down to the individual hexagrams of 5.6 degrees. But for the purposes of what we're doing today, working like this is absolutely fine. Okay. Now, the most important areas to use, to focus on when you're looking at your, when you're looking at Flying Star or other types of feng shui, is you must always look at the facing of your property, which i.e. is the direction that your property faces, i.e. the front of your house. Look at the facing, look at your main door, because the main door is where you're pulling in the qi. So the quality of the qi that you're pulling in is going to directly affect what's going on inside the property. Your bedroom, which is where you spend about a third of your life. Is it possible to have the lights on? Because we're reaching that kind of contracting qi time of the day. So you see, so just whilst they're doing that, so we have yin and yang, which the other people have been talking about today. And if things are too yin, it's too quiet. You talked about this too, was it you that talked about this? It's too quiet. And if you have a yin environment, it's not conducive to study or concentration. So we're the more, it's Simon, he talked about sunlight, and it's a yang qi, and that's what lifts the energy and lifts the environment. And we also have the qi of the hour, so we're in sheep hour, which is quite yin anyway, and we're moving into monkey hour, which is contracting qi. So we want you need to get the lights on to get it a little bit more. So, so we were talking about the front door. Okay, we're looking at the facing, the direction that your house or your property faces, the main door, the bedroom where you spend a third of your life, and your office, your home office if you're working inside your own home. And the key in all of this is to put yourself in the best sectors. Okay, so you don't need to even know the complexities of calculations, just put yourself in the good sectors, and that's how you're going to get the most out of it. And if there's only one thing that you take away from this today, is to know that these are the best sectors this year. Okay, so once you've done your 9 palace grid, you just write on here southeast, south, southwest, northwest are the best sectors in 2018 until next February. And interestingly, okay, so my front door is southeast, I sleep in the southwest, and this year I've moved my office into the northwest, and I have not stopped working since it all took off in February. So every year I do this for my clients and for myself. So you just have 4 areas to put yourself, and if you can use one of them, you're still going to give yourself a big advantage. Why are they good? Because the annual stars that fly around the property, this year we're looking at the 8, the 4, the 6, and the 1. And that's really all you kind of need to know, where do they land this year. Now, I'm going to tell you in a little bit more detail. So southeast is the home, oh that's great, thank you, is the home of the wealth star. And so this is probably the most important sector of the year. So if you sleep in the southeast, or if you're working in the southeast, you're giving yourself a huge benefit because you're receiving the best chi of the year. And it's the best sector for general prosperity and good fortune, so things that are going to really give you a boost this year. So if you're looking for money, particularly if you want to boost your reputation, if you want new opportunities to come into your life, into your work, or if you're looking to invest and increase your assets, you're looking at putting yourself or working with the southeast this year. Then the northwest is, if you really want to work on your career, this year the northwest in particular is very strong. It also has what we call helpful people or noble people, which means that people will come in and give you that kind of boost that you're looking for. So we're looking at the northwest being the next best sector after the one before that, because this is where you're going to bring in people who are just going to kind of give you a leg up. You know, people sometimes just appear and go, you know, I just want to introduce you to this person, and then suddenly, you know, it's a really advantageous connection. So it's great if you want a promotion, if you've been chasing that promotion, or you want to improve your authority. It's great for boosting your thinking. Travel. So I'm working in the northwest. And since February, I've been in India, I've been in Germany, I'm going to Belgium next week. Constant travel this year. So if that's something that interests you, put yourself there as well. And wealth as well is the one. And then south is a really interesting sector this year. So every month I've been writing a little piece for the Feng Shui Society newsletter on peach blossom. So peach blossom is all about attractiveness and likability. So you can go onto the website and pull up all those previous articles. And the south is really important this year if you are looking for romantic opportunities or partnerships in some way, or if you're looking to study and pass some exams. So basically, if you're a student who is looking for love, you're going to have to be in the south sector, and it will give you a massive boost. So very strong this year, peach blossom in the south, because technically speaking, 9-4 is a very strong romance combination, which is how we read these things and know what the sectors are going to bring us. So if you're studying, it's also great for creativity. If you want to write something, if you're working in the beauty industry, it's also a good sector to boost that kind of business. Partnerships, if you want to find a partner, a work partner, not just a romantic partner, and it is the peach blossom sector of the year. So peach blossom being romantic encounters and general kind of likability and all that kind of stuff. I can't access my south this year, unfortunately. So I had to miss out on that. It's really strong in July, as all these are strong in July, because for a technical reason, everything kind of doubles up. We have the annual stars become extra strong in July because of the way they fall in that month. So from about the first week of July to the first week of August, everything that I'm telling you now is going to be amplified. So if you're kind of thinking, oh, I'll do it later, do it before July, so you're actually using July. Very strong annual flying star. Southwest is power and reputation. It's if you want a new job or to really kind of boost your career. Or also if you want to kind of increase your personal power. You know, if you're feeling not quite, you're not really kind of making the impact that you want to make, and you think something is kind of like blocking you, put yourself in the southwest. You can also add water here this year. So water is a very, very strong feng shui technique. So we can't indiscriminately put water features anywhere in the house or anywhere in the garden. So in classical feng shui, we're very specific about where we put water. But if you put water in the southwest this year, it will massively amplify what's going on here. Okay. Next year, you need to take it out, because everything changes next year, and next year we don't want water in the southwest. But you've still got lots of months to put some water in and get some good effects from that. I've also thought I would mention avoiding the troublesome chi, because you don't want to be sleeping in an area that isn't going to be supporting you this year. And the biggest one that we really always want to draw attention to is the annual 5. So you might hear people talk about the 5 yellow, and this year it's in the north. So basically this is setbacks. So if you're sleeping in the north, or if your front door is north, or your office is north, you are going to be probably encountering some kind of hiccup. And I know that I was working with a client last week, and she's sleeping in the north, and she's having legal problems, all kinds of issues going on for her. So it's an area that you don't want to disturb, so no decorating in the north. You're going to have to put that off until next year. So we don't want to disturb it by digging it or decorating or doing anything. Even a nail in the wall, hanging a picture in the north is to be absolutely avoided. No renovation at all. So don't sleep there, basically. So next year, this 5 moves into my bedroom and I'm moving out because I wouldn't sleep or work in the 5. You can add, there are all kinds of different, what we call cures, to kind of, to sort of contain the energy. So one of the simplest thing you can do is just add a load of metal, preferably not be in it, is the main thing. So don't think I can sleep in the north and I'll add a bit of metal and I'll be fine. Just move out. But if it's completely and utterly unavoidable, you need to put lots and lots of metal in there just to kind of drain it a little bit. The other important sector to mention is the west, which is where the sickness star is this year. It brings illness and stress. So if you're sleeping in the west and you're feeling your health hasn't been great since February, or if you're feeling really stressed, move out, especially if you're ill. So if there's somebody in your family who is sick and they're sleeping in a west bedroom, you really would be very wise to move them out of that room. Yes, of course. Yes.
Sleeping in the west.
Yeah.
Sleeping a little bit facing west.
Okay, so that's a good question. So we have the difference between location and direction. And everything that I'm talking about now is location. But direction is also comes into play, but the most important, the biggest effect you're going to have is the location. Okay, because that's the bigger chi. That's the bigger kind of influences that you're in. So if you're sleeping in the west and your bed is facing west, then you really want to kind of move out. But the bigger concern is location.
What's the rough proportion between the two?
Okay, so there isn't really a clear-cut answer on that because there are all different kinds of techniques that we use, because sometimes I might set somebody up where they are possibly facing a certain direction that isn't necessarily a great direction. I wouldn't put them facing north, but sometimes there are individual directions that are really good for us for a very short space of time. So it's more of a complex answer, but for the purposes of this, focus on location, because that's the biggest effect that you're going to encounter. If you're pregnant or trying to get pregnant, don't be in the west this year. And a cure you can put in there is to add a ton of metal. So I've got west in a part of my dining room. So we don't use it that often, but I've just put lots of kind of metal plates and bowls, singing bowls and things like that, just to kind of contain it a little bit. The other two I've kind of put together because they're next door to each other. So you may find that if you've got something, if you're in the east, you're probably touching the northeast as well, so I've just lumped these together. So the east is 7-star, which is on happiness and lots of wealth, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. And then the northeast, again, is very problematic. It's the annual 3, which is kind of legal problems and general conflict. So the 7, so this is an argument star. So the 7, if you're a couple and you're sleeping in the east, and you find yourself arguing, you need to move out because it will enhance any kind of dispute or quarrel that might be taking place. So couples, if you're feeling a little bit antsy, make sure you move out of there. Watch your security if your door is here this year, because it's also a loss of wealth. We call it the robbery star, but don't get too hung up on that. So my house faces east, so I've just had to say to my husband, make sure you close those windows, because sometimes he forgets, because it's important this year. So you can add, I use a very large rock inside to contain the 7, so that's something you can do if it makes you feel more comfortable with dealing with the energies. And then the 3 is legal problems, and I'll tell you, well, it's arguments and disagreements and of a legal kind of nature particularly. So you don't want to be working in the 3 because you don't want to be bringing that kind of chi into your business this year. And so watch out if your front door is here, because that's the energy that you're going to be bringing in to your home. And I'll tell you, I have huge respect for the annual 3-star because, I mean, I could tell you stories about all of these different influences and all of these different annual stars because I hear it from my clients and they're all in my book. But I have direct experience of the 3 because one year it came into my front door. I had 3 at my door. And I thought, I don't have any legal disputes with anybody. I don't have any issues with anybody. I don't need to take care of that this year. So I didn't. And within a couple of weeks of the year coming in February, I had this kind of really old problem that I thought was kind of dealt with and sorted and from years before. Ex-husband problem. And suddenly it kind of like raised its head. I had to get a lawyer. I had to pay money to have all these letters written over this particular issue. And I thought, what's going on in my feng shui? What have I done? What have I disturbed? It's like, of course, I've got the 3 at the door. So the cure for the 3 is we add fire, which is a candle. So I would light this candle and leave it burning until I went to bed at night every day. And within 3 days of putting the fire in, resolved, gone away. And so it's like, I have huge respect for the 3. And I will always make sure I take care of it if it's at the front of my house or at my door, and I wouldn't work in it either. But when I talk about... Pardon? About the metal? Yeah, what about the metal? 4. Okay, so the way I work, okay, is rather than clash a star. So what this lady is asking about is star 3, the element of 3 is wood. And so what she's saying is, why don't you use metal? Because metal chops the wood. 5 minutes, okay. So metal chops the wood. So basically, I don't really like to clash, so I'd rather drain it. So fire, as wood feeds the fire, wood is drained by, so I don't really like to clash because it's too much of a kind of disruptive energy. So don't worry. So the point is, don't worry, because worry is like walking with an umbrella waiting for it to rain. The key to all of this is to put yourself in the very best feng shui. And if you're using the best feng shui, the troublesome feng shui will kind of take care of itself. Okay, so always use the good stuff. Just to wrap up, just to say, remember, it's a quick fix. It's not a forever thing. It's a quick fix every year. Decide what you want to achieve and go for it. Find the star that gives you what you want this year and use it. Put yourself there. So remember, southeast, south, southwest, northwest, the most important areas. That's all you need to know. Yes?
For the way that you work, do you always use the front of the house as the facing, for instance, if the back of the house has all the windows?
Okay, I mean, that's a really good question. It depends. So the front isn't always the facing. So the facing is where you're receiving the most chi. So it might be the front by the road, or it might be the side that faces the view. So it's not as simple as going it's the front. It's not actually, but for the majority of cases it is. But sometimes the back is the front, if you know what I mean. I used to live in Florida, and the houses went onto a lake. So that was the back of the house, but that became the facing. Yeah, good question. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks.